The basis of cosmology, really, if you hunt for it, lies in Einsteinian relativistic mechanics. And when Einstein promulgated his ideas, he totally and completely ignored anything electrical. And so the modern cosmology, with all of its ideas of omega and expanding universe and inflation theory and the Big Bang and all the rest of it, are predicated on a foundation which ignores almost half of man's knowledge about the way the universe works, which is electricity.
It may sound like I'm dismissing Einstein and his theories of relativity out of hand, but we have to give Einstein credit for his integrity in pointing out that his theory did not meet his requirements, and that is that his theory had to be tied back to some form of reality. And there is no explanation as to why matter should curve space to give the effect of gravity. He felt that quantum theory, being a probabilistic theory, divorced cause and effect. And this is one of the things you cannot do in physics, is divorce cause and effect. Otherwise, you might as well give up and get a real job. But this is a puzzle that dogged Einstein through his later years, to the point that his followers tended to go off and use his geometrical explanations to conjure up things like black holes and neutron stars and so on, and the expansion of the universe and the Big Bang, without referring back to Einstein, who, with great integrity, said he wasn't satisfied with his explanation. One of the problems faced by astronomers after the space age began was to explain the discovery of very concentrated outbursts of energy in deep space. And that meant for them, since gravity is the only driving force available to them, that they required an infinite concentration of mass, because gravity is an infinitely weak force.
The black hole, as Wheeler originally visualized it, sucked everything, including light, in, and so therefore it was invisible. So he could postulate its existence, and we couldn't see it. And because we couldn't see it, we couldn't prove that it wasn't there. Later on, in order to explain these fantastic emissions of energy from galaxies, it was proposed, and I believe it was Stephen Hawking who did it, that there were various types of black holes, some of which actually then spat matter back out again in jets. Because, why? Because we had observed jets.
In the electrical model, it's quite simple. If you think about it, the power that's expressed in your own home, in the heaters and the electric motors and the lighting and so on, is actually generated at a vast distance away from your house. In deep space, the same thing is true. The energy which we see concentrated in these events which are attributed to black holes and so on can more easily be explained as the confluence of electric energy from different parts of the same galaxy or even from other parts of the universe. And it is this explosive release of energy which forms the vast jets that we see lit up and exploding from the centers of active galaxies.
We also have observed double radio sources either side of galaxies. And that event was predicted by Hannes Alfvén, the founding father of modern electrical cosmology, and is still to this day unexplained by standard cosmology.
Magnets, flywheels, reciprocating engines, transformers, tripods with mysterious boxes, and radio tuners. How do the pieces of this puzzle fit together? And could the answer be a way to defy gravity and a spectacular end to the energy crisis? With rolling blackouts and gas prices skyrocketing at the pumps, you won't want to miss what comes next. According to reports, whenever someone came up to the castle and rang the correct number of times to gain entrance, Leeds Skalnin would cover up his tools before coming out to talk to the person. Why was Lead Skalman so secretive about how he moved the huge coral stones? People also said he had a sixth sense to detect if someone was secretly watching, and he would immediately stop working and simply putter around.
There is a mindset called the Italian tile layer syndrome. These renowned tilers would go all over the world laying tile for important buildings and people. No one was allowed to watch them because they were protecting their trade secrets. I believe that Lead Skalman had this kind of mindset.
Was Ed Lead Skalman so secretive about his construction methods and about himself that he even used a hidden code in his writings?
Lead Skalman self-published this curious little book called A Book in Every Home. Following each page, he left a blank page with this explanation. Reader, if for any reason you do not like the things I say in this little book, I left just as much space as I used, so you can write your own opinion opposite it and see if you can do better. It's possible that he left the empty space for the reader to decipher a code hidden in metaphors in his book. The code may ultimately reveal how he built the Coral Castle. The book also talks about family life, Sweet 16, and how to raise boys and girls. One curious sentence says, "Don't raise girls too big by overfeeding them." Could raising girls be a metaphor for raising a stone? In Lee Skalman's writings on magnetic current, he suggests a series of experiments using magnets. Perhaps these experiments are an important key to understanding how Lead Skalman, using anti-gravity, moved coral blocks.
That Ed's secrets lie hidden in code and metaphors in his writing is an intriguing possibility. But can we look anywhere else for evidence that Ed really figured out how to eliminate or minimize the effects of gravity? Did some neighbors penetrate the wall of secrecy and actually catch Ed?
One legend is that there were some children spying on Ed undetected and saw him floating coral blocks in the air like hydrogen balloons.
There are additional reported incidents. In 1936, Lead Skalman decided to move his original castle in Florida City, Ed called it Rockgate, to Homestead, reportedly to escape the threat to his privacy from a subdivision to be built nearby. He dismantled the castle and moved it, stone by stone, to Homestead, where it is today. For the first and only time, Lead Skalman sought help with the move.
Ed Lead Skalman hired a tractor to pull the chassis of an old truck that he had. He had the driver leave the empty truck and come back the following morning to haul the full load of heavy coral stone to Homestead. But once the driver came back unexpectedly after only 30 minutes. To his amazement, he found that the truck was already loaded down with several huge blocks of coral. The driver remembered,
"It was impossible to have stacked those gigantic blocks in under 30 minutes, even with a steam-powered derrick. And Ed had no equipment, just a simple tackle and chain hoist. Yet there they were, piled like cordwood."
When the truck moved the 23-ton obelisk, Lead Skalman told the driver that he would have it raised in position by the following morning. And indeed, when the driver returned the following morning, the obelisk was raised.
But why did Lead Skalman undertake the daunting task of moving the entire castle 10 miles from Atlantic City to Homestead, Florida? Was there a reason besides the prospect of a housing development close to the castle? And does the actual location of the castle itself contribute to its mystery? Some researchers believe that there is an energy grid that is formed around the entire Earth, an invisible pattern of energy lines that concentrate points of electromagnetic energy where the lines intersect. Did Lead Skalman somehow learn the secrets of this energy grid, and is Coral Castle a power point?
I've heard that Ed had a map of the magnetic energy points of the Earth. Ray Stoner, in his book, The Enigma of Coral Castle, suggests that Lead Skalman moved the original castle to Homestead not because of an encroaching housing development, but because a surveying error misplaced the original castle 10 miles from the energy grid.
Captain Bruce Cathy, a commercial pilot and author, is considered the world's leading authority on the energy grid.
I've just recently been running the given position of coral castles through my computer using the computer program that we've developed, and I found that there is a definite link with gravitational forces, and also a link there with the Earth's magnetic field. So it's obvious that Ed definitely knew something about Einstein's E equals mc squared and the unified fields. He was well ahead of what everybody thought he was. He wasn't dumb. He knew something.
There are other well-known anomalies and monuments on this energy grid, including Stonehenge on the Salisbury Plain in England and the pyramids and the Sphinx on the Giza Plateau. Interestingly, many questions surround the construction of these huge monuments and how they were built with the primitive technology of ancient times. Did Ed Leeds-Skalman really understand how to use this so-called energy grid? And is it even possible to speculate on how Leeds-Skalman used his unconventional view of matter and magnets to achieve anti-gravity?
Here is my idea of how Leeds-Skalman flipped the magnets in his coral blocks and achieved